Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Broken Berean. And today we're going to be talking about something that we've talked about for decades. And I'll be honest, this tab for this article has been sitting in my browser for at least 3 weeks now. I think I opened it up on May 24th when it was released, thinking whether I should make a video about this or not. Do I want to give my opinions on it and things like that and kind of break it down a little bit? And I just decided, you know what? I either need to do it or delete the tab. So let's do it. Uvalde school shooting is now going to be the center of several new lawsuits. And this is because they are trying to put responsibility of this horrific thing onto someone else than the shooter. And I hope this doesn't get me struck, but we got to talk about it. As a parent, this involves two sides of every parent's worst nightmare. First, to have your child taken from you in a violent manner. No, strike that. To have your child taken from you, period, is a nightmare for any parent out there. It terrifies me to the core that I might lose one of my children. I cannot imagine the pain these parents went through. I cannot. I don't want to. I never want to experience. I never want a single parent ever to experience this. But it's a sad fact in this fallen world, children are going to pass before their parents, and there's no sadder thing than a parent having to bury their child. Really, it is a fear that I think unites all parents. And then on the other side, to be the parent of someone who does something so horrific is another massive fear and nightmare. Because if you lose your child to something that was out of your control, it's a pain, it's a loss, it's eternal grief. But when your child does something so horrific, you question every single thing about your life. What did you do wrong? What did you miss? What could you have done? So the parents of the person who committed this act seem to be bringing lawsuits against the rifle company that the person bought the firearm from and Facebook and also Activision because they're the creators and distributors of Call of Duty. Now, this is why I'm bringing this up is because the gaming aspect of it. Now, the algorithm targeting the ads for this type of weapon and accessories and things to a specific person like this, that's something that I think should be addressed. I mean, seriously. Algorithms are as smart as we program them to be. And sometimes we don't program them smart enough. Because their basic design is this is what you're searching for. This is what you're looking at. We'll show you more of this. Well, that may not always be the best case to do things, as we can obviously surmise here. But it's the video games. I mean, growing up in the 80s and the 90s and seeing, oh, yes, music needs to be banned and labeled, and games need to be banned and labeled because they're responsible for violence and all these other things. And it seems like my entire young and teenage years was just this. From, all the way from Twisted Sister to Marilyn Manson. We saw that in music. It's been going on for decades trying to do that. And I think what it comes down to is freedom of speech and freedom of creativity. Yes, if it becomes something that is obscene or graphic or things like that, it should be age restricted, not discarded, not banned. I'm not of that nature because I know that eventually that line's going to get moved further and further, closer to the things we all agree are not that. So I know it's the logical fallacy of the slippery slope, but today, in today's society, in this world we live in now, I think the slippery slope is a valid logical argument nowadays because we see it so constantly. So I have a fear of banning anything. I do think that Facebook and Meta do bear some responsibility in advertising in the way its algorithms are based. And so, but video games, it's dumb to me because you seek out what you're feeling. Whether it's music, media, video games, you're going to seek it out to address or bolster the emotion that you're feeling. Either way, that's just kind of what we do as humans. We reach for a connection to try to help deal with whatever emotion we're having, whether it's good or bad. It's a human thing. It's how we're wired in the brain. And I don't think this is something that we can just go, oh yes, let's sue Activision because they make Call of Duty. Well, if it wasn't Call of Duty, it would have been something else. He may have gone out and made a secret firing range somewhere in the woods or something. We don't know what the alternative he would have had if he didn't have this. But I guarantee you, if he didn't have Call of Duty, he would have found an alternative means of releasing his aggression, his anger, his fear in some other way before leading up to this event. And I just think that it's silly, like, oh, we're going to hold video games responsible. Call of Duty is one of the largest franchises for video games. I'm up there with Halo and things like that are just first-person shooter, third-person shooters, just war and things like that. That's just how it is. But we have to understand that millions upon millions upon millions of people of all demographics play these types of games around the world. You can't take a small percentage of isolated incidents and say this is the fact. You can't. It's not fair to the statistics. Do all these people that do these things sort of have this thing in common? Yes. The 0.00000000001% of those people have that in common. The other 99.9999% of people that play this game don't do any of that. I know people that play these games. I've played a few. I'm just not talented and I don't have the skill level to be competitive in these types of games. But I know people like this that play these games and have for decades that have never even held a weapon. The closest they've come is a video game. So to say that this video game company bears responsibility seems dumb. But it's always going to be that way. It's always going to, if he was listening to a particular band that was violent, whether metal, screamcore, something like that, and that's all he did, and he quoted a band or something in his note or something like that, or a post somewhere on social media, they'd be going after them as well. Or this one person out of the millions of fans of that band or group did nothing of the sort. So it's punishing a company, a group, because one person did something bad. If that's the case, we would absolutely have zero politicians in office right now. I guarantee you that. If we took that model and applied it to our politics around the world, not just the U.S. I mean, seriously, around the world. If that was if that was benchmark, if that was the line, there'd be so many politicians that had no job tomorrow. So I think the video game aspects of these lawsuits is frivolous, and it's just something that we continue to see decade after decade. Violent video games create violence. And I did a video a while back that actually showed that people playing video games after work relieve stress. And it doesn't matter the type of game. Whether you're playing Call of Duty or Stardew Valley, you playing video games helps relieve stress and helps make you a little more relaxed from the stress of daily life. It's an escape. Do some people do bad things? Yes, a lot of people do bad things. But it doesn't mean that this video game company is responsible. I mean, how many shooting games out there? I mean, we're not seeing this about Helldivers 2 or Fortnite or Overwatch or any games like that that are similar, not similar, but the same type of shooting game, one-on-one, team-on-team, fighting against each other. I mean, I get it. The parents are hurting and they want someone to blame. Because as a parent, if I was in their shoes, if I could blame somebody other than myself, it would help me process the pain that I felt. I get it. Doesn't mean it's right. It means I understand it. I understand their position. As a parent, I couldn't imagine the pain and the anger that they feel. And the hate and anger that are thrown towards those parents because of what their child did. You just can't get away from something horrific like that. This has destroyed their lives. These people will never be the same again. I've been through 2 instances where you talk to people in 3 different parts of my life, and they will give you 3 completely different descriptions of me. Things like this change people. And because of this, we have to understand that trauma is real, and trying to find answers is a natural reaction. And the problem with some of this is, even though we have the facts and put things together, the full answer is never going to be revealed to us on why this person did this. We may not be able to see where it started, why it started, what it did. We can kind of get to it, but there's so much stuff that goes inside a person's head that we will never fully know the full story and full understanding of it. And as a parent, that's what's driving them crazy. And I truly do, as a parent, I can't imagine. I can't imagine this. I remember when this happened. I remember my heart sank anytime I see articles and news headlines with something like this. My heart just sinks. As a parent, it makes me grow in fear for my own children. But the problem is, parents can only do their best at what they have available to them. And regardless of what it is, at the end of the day, we all are responsible for our own actions. But as a parent of a child who does something horrific, that fact seems to go out the window. And so these parents I'm sure, are absolutely traumatized, and they just want answers. They're not looking for. I guarantee you, money is not the end goal here for them. They want them to pay. They want them to accept responsibility. But the responsibility comes down to the person that did the thing. And that's hard to accept. I really don't understand how a person gets there. I've not gone down a path like that myself, where I felt the only logical conclusion was to hurt people. I've never been down that path. I've never been pushed down that path. I've never even thought about going down a path that looked that way. So I don't know. I can't comprehend what this person was doing, what this person was thinking. But as a parent, I can tell you 100%. My entire body is truly aching right now. And all I'm doing is talking about this subject. I'm not even going into details, just the thought of being in those parents' shoes on either side literally is making my heart race and my arms shake right now. There's nothing worse than this, in my opinion. As a parent, I can't fathom anything worse than this. But the responsibility comes down to the person. Yes, we can make changes to help try to prevent this in the future. We can't change the past. But the problem is there will be something new. We live in an absolutely fallen world. Sin is everywhere. Evil is around every corner, trying to seduce the weak, the hurt, to do things they know they shouldn't do. And this is what it comes down to. You can blame everybody you want to try to help relieve that pain and that hurt in your heart and in your soul. But video games are not the culprit. They're not. Music's not the culprit. Movies aren't the culprit. Shows are not the culprit. I do think the algorithms have a problem. I don't think the arms manufacturer has much culpable responsibility. They are advertising their product to people that they would purchase it and use it for hunting, recreation, sporting, not for this. Not for evil. So many things can be used for evil. And yes, it takes some time. We have to possibly look at modifying gun laws. And I know that's a big topic. I'm a big Second Amendment person, but I do think there are things we should put in place. We have some. Most states will not allow a convicted felon to have a firearm. If you are convicted of an aggravated felony, you are never allowed to have a firearm, ever. You can never get that privilege back. That makes sense. Someone who's done a violent act and does eventually get released from prison on parole, they should not have access to firearms because they are high risk at reoffending. That's just statistics. But there are those that did that felonies that were not violent and had nothing to do with firearms that do get their rights back. along with like the rights to vote again, things like that. But this is such a small fraction. But I do think things, if you have during the background check, um, I mean, here in Texas, when you get your CHL, you are background checked by the Texas Rangers and the FBI. Full background checks by both bodies. And one or both should come up with the fact that you have either been hospitalized or committed to anything with having to do with mental stability, mental illness, things like that. Those people should be flagged like you are not allowed to have a firearm until you are cleared by a medical professional saying you are no longer a threat to yourself or others due to what's going on in your head. Then maybe. I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I do think there are some improvements that are needed. I think the only person that could be successfully sued should be the Facebook and Meta, and that should just be money and being forced to change their algorithm to prevent something like showing these types of ads to those that would be like this. I mean, I don't know how to do it. I'm not a programmer. I don't know. But this is something we have to look at as a society. What's the best action? Because I know it's a minuscule, very small amount when you look at the entire picture of the country and the world. This is a small percentage of people that do this. Statistically, almost negligible compared to wars and things like that. But if we have the ability to prevent or lower these statistics, we should seriously consider those actions, as long as they don't violate our constitutional rights. So this is a long-winded video, in my opinion, way longer than I planned on talking about, because this topic literally puts so much fear into my heart for my own children that I don't like talking about it or thinking about it. But we have to, because this is a serious, serious thing. I don't want a single one of these to ever occur. Ever. But we do need to find some new ways to address these issues. And if that's what comes out of these lawsuits, I think these lawsuits are profitable. But I don't think they're going to get anywhere with Activision. They're not going to get anywhere with Daniel Defense. They might get somewhere with Facebook and Meta. But that's it. So, on this terrible, terrible topic, I do want to remind everyone, I love you all, and there's nothing you can do about it.